Okay, we've all been there, right? You tell yourself, just 5 minutes on my phone, and the next thing you know, half an hour has just vanished. You've been scrolling and scrolling, but you don't feel rested or good. You kind of feel empty. So let's get into why that happens, and more importantly, how you can start to reclaim your brain.
It's just this endless loop, isn't it? The feed that never stops, the constant river of new stuff. Your thumb just keeps flicking, almost like it has a mind of its own. It's so automatic that half the time we don't even realize we're doing it.
And that's really the million-dollar question. After all that time, all that consuming, do you actually feel better? I think for most of us, the answer is a hard no. You feel drained, maybe a little bit guilty, and you're left wondering why this thing that feels so compelling in the moment leaves you so unsatisfied. Well, the answer comes down to one little chemical that your brain is basically using against you. So let's pull back the curtain and talk about the culprit, dopamine. But we're going to talk about it in a way you've probably never heard before, because there is a massive lie, a huge misunderstanding about what this chemical actually does in your brain. Here it is. This is the big one. We've all been told that dopamine is the pleasure chemical, but that is the lie. The truth is, dopamine isn't about feeling pleasure. It's about seeking it. It's the chemical of motivation. It's what makes you want something, anticipate it, and go get it. So, and this is absolutely crucial, that little rush you feel, the dopamine spike, it happens before you get the reward. It's the thought of checking your phone. It's the anticipation of eating that junk food. It's the possibility of a new notification. That's the hit. The reward itself, honestly, to your dopamine system, it's almost an afterthought. And that leads us straight into something called the anticipation trap. It's this vicious cycle that explains exactly why you can scroll for an hour straight and somehow feel worse than when you started. Okay, so let's walk through it. First, you get a cue. Your phone buzzes, you see an ad, whatever. And boom, dopamine surges. That's that, ooh, this could be interesting feeling. Second, you respond. You pick up the phone, you click the link. But here's the trap, the aftermath. The thing you're looking at is almost never as good as the anticipation. So the dopamine crashes and you're left feeling kind of hollow, which just makes your brain start looking for another cue to get the next hit. All right, now that we get the cycle, let's look at the specific ways our modern world is literally built to exploit it. There are 3 of these traps in particular that I'd bet most of us fall into pretty much every single day. So trap number 1 is all about instant gratification. Your brain is wired for survival, right? It wants the reward and it wants it now. This used to be great, eat the berries before another animal does. But today, it pushes you toward the instant hit of a social media like instead of the delayed, much bigger reward of, say, finishing a project or going to the gym. It's really not a fair fight. Trap number 2, novelty addiction. Ever wonder why that refresh button is so addictive? It's because your brain is a novelty-seeking machine. To your brain, new equals potential reward. So every new post, every new video is like pulling the lever on a slot machine. You're not even looking for anything specific, you're just chasing the thrill that maybe this next one will be the jackpot. And the third trap, this one is super sneaky. It's the productivity paradox. Think about it. Busy work like clearing your email inbox or responding to Slack messages gives you constant, tiny little dopamine hits. It feels so productive. But the deep work, the stuff that actually moves your career and your life forward, that offers a much more delayed reward. So your brain lies to you. It steers you toward the easy wins that keep you feeling busy, but not actually getting anywhere important. Okay, so that's the problem. And I know it might sound a little bleak, but here is the good news, the really empowering part. Once you can see the strings, you can stop being the puppet. So let's get into the practical toolkit for taking back the controls. The first tool is more of a guiding principle. I call it the 80-20 rule. Ideally, you want 80% of your dopamine to come from healthy sources that actually build you up. Things like meaningful work, exercise, real connection with people. And only 20% should come from passive stuff like scrolling or binging shows. The problem is, for so many of us, that ratio is completely backward. So how do you start to flip that ratio back? Well, you can start with a reset. Some people call it a dopamine fast, but look, this isn't about punishing yourself. It's about recalibrating your brain. By taking a break from all the super high stimulus stuff, you let your brain's baseline level come down. And when that happens, normal, healthy activities start to feel rewarding again. A walk outside suddenly feels amazing. Now here's a beautifully simple tactic you can use literally anytime. When you get that urge to scroll, to snack, whatever it is, just set a timer for 10 minutes. That's it. This little pause is often all it takes for that initial chemical surge to fade and for the rational part of your brain to come back online and ask, wait, do I really want to do this? And finally, don't just resist the urge, redirect it. Create what I call a dopamine menu, which is just a go-to list of quick, healthy alternatives. So when you feel that restless craving for a hit, instead of just defaulting to your phone, you consciously pick something from your menu. You're still getting a little hit, but you're doing it on your own terms. You know, knowledge is one thing, but action is where the real change happens. So let's frame this not as a bunch of chores, but as your very first mission to reclaim your own attention. Just let that sink in for a second. The key words there are war and weapon. This isn't just about your personal willpower. It's about recognizing that you're in an actual battle against systems that are designed from the ground up to capture and monetize your focus. Understanding that is step one to fighting back. So let me be really, really clear about this. If you struggle with this stuff, you are not weak and you are not lazy. You are up against teams of PhDs and literally billions of dollars in research and development, all focused on one single goal: keeping your eyes glued to the screen. This is not a personal failing, it's a design feature of the world we live in now. So here it is. Here's your mission. Step 1. Identify your biggest vulnerability. Is it the instant gratification trap, the productivity paradox? Just pick one. Step 2. Choose just one strategy we talked about to fight back. And step 3. Execute. Start ridiculously small and just focus on being consistent. That's how this works. Look, your dopamine system evolved for a totally different world. It's an incredibly powerful tool, but it makes for a terrible, terrible driver in our modern lives. It's time to stop letting it steer you into distraction and unhappiness. It's time for you to take the wheel.